I'm Phil Hinkle. I work West Midnight Patrol, and I'm also a reservist in the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. And last March, about around the 20th or so, I got a phone call telling me I was going to be activated and sent down to San Antonio to the Air Force's anti-terrorism specialty team. But we got down to San Antonio, and they spent a good month and a half training us on different kinds of special tactics and high-risk driving and driving in hostile environments, high-speed chases and things like that. Things that we didn't even learn here in the police academy. We did pit maneuvers and ramming and some different things like that for protecting dignitaries. And the anti-terrorism team specializes in doing that type of a mission in a high-risk environment. And we were in Iraq shortly after Baghdad was taken, and went to Baghdad with a team of about 5 other guys, and our job was basically to protect the coalition individual who was assigned to run the government of Baghdad. He kind of functioned as a mayor, as a governor, establishing city services, police, fire, streets, basically anything that needed to be done that had not been done and wasn't being done since there was no more government there. It was a pretty high-risk environment because there were people there that didn't want us. Overall, I think the majority of the folks there were happy that we were there, that we came in and took out Saddam, because most of them lived in pretty poor conditions. It was by far the worst environment I've ever been in my life. There was open sewage lines, streets that hadn't been repaired in years. There were homes that looked like they were over 1,000 years old. And amazingly enough, juxtaposed to that was Saddam's palaces that were full of gold chandeliers and crystal and marble walls, and just an amazing difference in lifestyle. You'd see this just lavish, exorbitant life that he was living right next to people who were living in huts and homeless, with garbage piled up in the streets that hadn't been picked up for ages. What you see on the news is true. There are protests, there are mobs, there are hostile people out there, but what you didn't see on the news was the thousands of schools and hospitals and clinics, things that had been opened by the coalition after the war to provide services to the people. You didn't see the fact that there's more electricity now than there was before the war even started. There's clean water, there are sewage services, there's sanitary services, all kinds of things that they just didn't have. And the news doesn't talk about that. They talk about the bombings and the ambushes and things like that, which really are there. But you don't see the good things that are going on. Many times my team and I would be traveling from one place to another with our dignitary, and we would pass through an area where there were many, many people, and then 5 minutes later after we passed through, there would be an attack or an ambush on another convoy that passed through. One time we passed down a city street in Baghdad and saw the 50 caliber rounds laying in the road and the 20 millimeter rounds laying, and still smelled the cordite from the explosions that had happened just seconds before we passed through there. Saw a mangled car that had been run over by a Bradley or a tank or something like that, and quickly got out of that area. Our job was to protect the man. We were shot at several times. Basically, our mission was to put him in a car and get him out of the area as quickly as possible, or to put him in a secured area if we could, and keep him safe. In Baghdad, we were always accompanied with 4 Humvees with MPs in it, and that was about 4 to 5 MPs per vehicle. And then we had our armored car that our principal rode in, and then the Suburban that we rode in the back with all of our gunners. Traffic is almost undescribable. If you could imagine a place like New York City with no traffic lights and no police in rush hour, that's kind of how Baghdad is all the time. Cars were double, triple parked in the road. If a car breaks down, they just leave it where it is until they can fix it. cars going the wrong way, crossing medians, just going wherever they needed to go without any regard to normal traffic flow. And it's just a horrendous environment to try and move through in a high risk, because, like I said, most of the people out there were fairly supportive of us. But again, there were those ones that would get into crowds and shoot at us. They would throw grenades and then disappear into the crowd. And so, you know, it's kind of hard to fight back against something like that. You don't want to go killing innocent people and you know, just to get the one guy that did something. And they knew that we wouldn't do that, and so that's why they took advantage of that situation. I spent 4 months in Baghdad. I was at the Al Rashid Hotel when it got attacked the first time. Wasn't much damage there, and nobody got hurt, fortunately, that time. And I went to the UN bombing. Our dignitary needed to go over there and take care of some business. That was part of his responsibility. And that was just chaos, and it was. It's one thing to see it on the news, to see the craters and to see the bodies and to see, you know, the devastation. It's something entirely different to be standing there looking in a bomb crater and knowing that, you know, there are Americans in there, there are friendlies in there, and to see the pain of those who lost friends and loved ones. Yeah, while I was in Baghdad, I actually ran into Johnny Spruill one day. Our principal had a meeting in the city convention center, and I had to run inside for a minute, and as I was walking through, I look over and I see this big guy with no neck, and I say, I know that guy. And so I walk over, and sure enough, it's Johnny. And so we got to talking. He looked at me, and he had, you know, what are you doing here? He was totally surprised. He didn't know I was over there. Tried to find Jeff Pugh, missed him every time I went. I missed him by just, you know, a short period of time. But we did email back and forth. I know Chad Marlette was over there. I didn't have any luck running in with him either. But like I said, we did email quite a bit with Jeff, and Jeff seemed to be, well, Jeff, in good spirits. The people that I would run into that knew Jeff, you know, said he was highly motivated at all times, and so they knew exactly who we were talking about, and they said one of his favorite phrases was press hard 3 copies. And I know Jeff was excited about the traffic. He would have loved to have his ticket book with him. Johnny was just everybody's friend. He loved, the people love interacting with Johnny because he's just kind of a really nice guy and had a good spirit about him. APA and APD were great. I got several packages from both. I got lots of snacks and drinks and reading materials and things like that just really helped pass the time, because, you know, we didn't have much to do when we weren't working. You know, I got so much food I couldn't eat it all myself, and so I shared it with my team, and what my team didn't eat I would take downstairs to the soldiers who were guarding the hotel, and they were extremely appreciative of the different things that we got. Another thing about support from APD, my family moved while I was gone. Just before I left, we had started the process of buying a new house and selling the one we were in. And so when the house was finished, a bunch of West Side officers came over and loaded up pickup trucks, and I think they each made a couple of trips between the storage unit and the house and moved things over and helped my wife and kids get settled in. And, well, that was just wonderful. I couldn't have asked for more support, couldn't have asked for a better group of folks back here to watch over my family. Fortunately, I had a cell phone. Not everybody did, but I guess that's one of the benefits of being in the Air Force, is we had cell phones and we could call home. So I got to call home quite often. And I know Sergeant Stevens called me a couple of times just to let me know how things were going. And so it was good to hear from home. I got phone calls from other people just to say hi and let me know they were thinking about us and praying for us. And it was really a morale boost just to know that there were people back home who were thinking of us and praying for us.